Hello and welcome to Fatima Today. This show is produced by the World Apostolate of Fatima USA, Our Lady's BlueArmy, and brings topics to you, our viewers, related to the events in the world today. We live in tumultuous times when logic seems to have disappeared and uncertainty hangs over us. Our hope on these programs is to address the issues of the day and find solutions through adherence to the laws of God, especially through the message of Fatima. We ask that you subscribe to this podcast.
Hello. The Fatima message is timeless. What Our Lady directed us to do is to live the faith that we were given 2,000 years ago and prior to that in the Old Testament. The modern world has confused the teachings of the church with the secular vision of the day. People, young and old, have difficulty discerning the truth today. Young people have come of age in this confusing time, are inheriting a world ruled by situation ethics and not by objective truth. Our focus today must be to bring young people to embrace the ancient teachings of our faith, particularly through the dissemination of the Fatima message. My guest today is John Paul Gutschke. John Paul has a long history with the World Apostolate of Fatima and the BlueArmy Shrine. As a server at our events, as a young man and attendee at many of these events, he knows this apostolate and our mission. A graduate of Christendom College, John Paul is now on staff here. His focus is to help with this outreach through our media, particularly to young people. Welcome, John Paul.
Thank you, David.
Thanks for being here. And,
Absolutely, it's a
thanks
joy.
for being part of the apostolate and all, everything that you have done, and I in the future do more. I guess, where do we start? Okay, I know I asked you to do a little outline of your ideas, and I guess what we need to truly look at is how do we approach not just young people, obviously, but people in general, particularly younger people, because that has to be the focus of our apostolate today. This demographic is our future.
Absolutely.
So a little bit about, what is your vision for reaching this generation, your generation?
So each one of us is on a journey. Each one of us is searching for true meaning and true happiness. No matter where you fall on the religious or political spectrum, we're all searching for something. And one of the most beautiful and deepest longings that we can appeal to with the Catholic faith and with the Fatima message in particular is this longing for understanding what our purpose is. Mm-hmm. And what I learned at Christendom, which is very helpful, is that the ancient Greeks taught us very well that we can come to understand how to live a good life, how to find true happiness, because happiness is the one thing that we can't not desire. We all desire happiness. It's part of our nature. So because of this, we know from even the ancient pagan Greeks, they had this wisdom. They knew that we long for happiness. And the Catholic faith is the spiritual fulfillment, is the supernatural realization of how to find our happiness. And especially in the world today, which is isolated, there's brokenness, there's just so much depravity and lost individuals, particularly among the youth. And you can see that they're searching for something and they want to find happiness. They want to find peace, but they're looking in all the wrong places. Yeah. And to appeal to youth's desire to really find what their heart is longing for and to show that it can be answered with the Catholic faith. The Catholic faith is the way to true happiness, fulfillment, peace, connection, true friendship, all the things that we all desire as human beings. To show that and to show how the Fatima message leads us to a deeper understanding of our faith is the way that we can promote and evangelize and bring the mission of Our Lady to the world.
Well, the Fatima message, and I say this all the time, there's nothing new in the Fatima message.
Exactly.
There are warnings. There are specific things that were said, okay? But, Our Lady never said, if you don't do this by this date, this is going to happen, okay? I mean, to some degree, yes. He said, these things are on the horizon right now. It's prophecy. And St. Pope John Paul II was very clear about prophecy when he said that it's not etched in stone, okay? And that is very important because people look at the prophecies, the statements, nations could be annihilated, all these things that we're saying, oh my God, what's got to happen now?
Right.
Well, not necessarily, okay? Prayer moves mountains because prayer moves God. Good hearts move God. And I think to your point, you spoke about the ancient Greeks and the early philosophers. I had an experience some years back in the Czech Republic speaking with a woman at a hotel where I was staying in Prague. I was there for a speaking thing, and I wanted to go to the Church of the Infant Jesus. It was one of the things on my list of, my little bucket list while I was there, and I asked her, can you give me directions? She had the biggest smile on her face. And she told me her story. She was this is maybe 15 years ago. She was maybe 40 years old at the time. And she said that she grew up in Prague, never heard of the place growing up because the churches were closed during communism. And then she was working at that hotel, and one day somebody came and asked for information how to get there, and she looked it up. And then she said she started going there, and it became like, oh my God, it was like it was a highlight of her days to go and pay a visit at that church. Bottom line is people are seeking God.
Yes.
Even if they don't know it.
Exactly.
Always, okay? But she was seeking for what you were talking about, that fulfillment, that happiness. And that happiness really only comes when you're in sync, truly, or long term at least, only comes when you're in sync with God. Everybody seeks, sinners seek pleasure. Yes. That's temporary, okay? But real happiness comes when you're working in tune with heavenly desires.
Absolutely, yes. And thank you for bringing up the point as well about how it was going to church and actually having that encounter that really solidified this woman in her faith and made her develop that habit, because ultimately conversion comes about through a movement of the heart after seeking, and it's the experience that is very important. The hymn that says, taste and see the goodness of the Lord. It's having that experience, tasting the good, having an encounter with Jesus, having an encounter with Our Lady, and particularly in the aspect of good community with true friends while you're seeking your faith together. So that's another element that is very important to youth, is having this community to be able to directly encounter and experience. You have the old saying, "What's in it for me?" And it's that's true. As human beings, we always want to appeal to people's sense of what are they going to get out of it, what are they going to benefit from. And when you directly provide an experience, whether it's through events at the shrine, through inspiring, thought-provoking videos, articles, all of these different things, by providing an experience that actually moves their heart, that they really feel it internally, it's going to leave them wanting more and wanting to go deeper in their faith and to live a better life and become part of the apostolate, become part of the Blue Army, become a soldier for Christ and Our Lady, and to go out there and make a difference. And especially if you do this within the context of providing a vision, like this is what our mission is. This is what you can do to save the world, and it doesn't have to be something that looks grand or something that's overwhelming. It's just the small daily acts of love, the 5 First Saturdays, all of these devotions that Our Lady asks us to do, to offer our lives, to give our hearts fully. This is what's going to make a difference in the world, to bring about world peace, to bring about the true triumph of the Sacred and Immaculate Heart.
And that's the whole point. I mean, we are. What people have forgotten over the years, I think, and even in our apostolate at some point, we were originally the Blue Army of Our Lady of Fatima, founded as a Blue Army of prayer to counter the Red Army of atheistic communism. As it was all about.
Yes.
It was the atheism. That was the problem, was taking God out of the equation. And as the years went on, as we went more international to our countries, that the word army didn't work. That's where the World Apostolate of Fatima came into being, same mission. But we can't forget the fact that we are the church militant.
Yes.
Okay. That's our mission. I mean, there is a church, the church militant on earth, the church suffering in purgatory, and the church triumphant in heaven. That doesn't change.
Right.
Okay. And the name, that's why I thought our Blue Army name was always very strong in that recognition of where we are now. Yes. We're in the struggle. Okay. And our spiritual father, St. Padre Pio, put it best. I mean, when he had this rosary, here's my weapon.
Yes.
Where's my weapon? He used to say, I don't know how many rosaries he said a day. Some said you couldn't even count the number of rosaries. He was constantly praying it. But there is a special nature to that prayer. But even what's behind it is more important. When John Hafford, our founder, our co-founder, met with Sister Lucia, and he asked her, what does Our Lady want the most? The recitation of the rosary, correct? And she sort of smiled and said, she wants us to become holy. Now, of course, that rosary is a means to that. It's an avenue to it, as are all the prayers and all of living that way. So, in this secular environment that we're in today, okay, as a young person, there were not schools like Christendom when I was in college, in the 70s. It's beautiful to see that. Of course, it's sprung up because of a need. The way the world has become so paganized. How are your interactions with your fellow students? Did people in general have that same feeling? Obviously, if they went to a school like that, something drew them.
So ask your question one more time. So what specifically did they notice? Did they notice what need?
Well, yeah. I mean, what was your interaction with your fellow students? And did they feel the same urgency to re-Christianize the world? I guess. Okay. New crusade, if you want to call it that. I would think that's what I would hope to see that's what it's about.
Definitely. So the motto of Christendom is instaurare omnia in Christo. So it's to restore all things in Christ. And I was very blessed as a student. I was part of a group and we formed called the St. Joseph Stronghold. So it has about 30 members now. We continued it even past while we were there. And all these gentlemen, we would meet once a week. And, it was really a brotherhood. It was friendship. It was, we did the consecration to St. Joseph, and it was really about trying to live good, holy lives as men, and to bring the faith to the world, and to provide a light and a witness of that. And we've all done this in various ways. One of my friends that I just saw at a pro-life men's march in Boston, he's now a focused missionary, and he's working at Harvard. So great works and great fruits coming about. Some of my friends have also gotten married. So living that witness of being a Catholic family man in today's world.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and that is it. If you're going to be there, go to a vocation, to the priesthood or religious life of some sort, this is what you hope that a school like that directs people to.
Yes.
To understand that it's... Unfortunately, when I was in school in those days, it was, okay, get out of school and make a lot of money. Okay?
Yep.
That was, and not to say that we weren't living our faith, but the environment wasn't that. The environment was get your skills, get out in the work world, and I think that and that's not bad. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that's the backbone of economies and all that. But I think that a need brings about a solution. I think that's what schools like Christendom and others came from, is that need to have Catholic education. Quit stealing our children is what it was all about. Okay?
Yes.
And it's great to see that yourself, you're a product of that, and very much a product of this place. I mean, you were here as a young man, as a server, I have pictures of you from years ago back there. But no, and I appreciate watching how maybe the foundation of first your family, certainly, are very pious and devoted people who come here, but brought you here. What you did, what you took into the school, and even the work you've been doing since then. I really believe that this is our future. Okay, we have to get people to understand, but we have to follow up with them too. Like, for example, last year we were at the Focus Seek conference in St. Louis. Huge event. We've been to those before, and it's beautiful. We had a table, and there was great interest on the part of young people that came. I don't know how many. I mean, what are the numbers that go to those conferences? Are huge, and I was impressed at the number of people, the interest they showed. But I don't know about the follow up. How do we follow up with people like that?
Yes, I definitely think it's important to bring them in and to have initiatives to allow them to stay involved. So one of the things I was thinking is to have specific prayers or missions that you can appeal to them, their sense of being part of something greater than themselves. So it could be, inviting them to be part of a prayer group, a chat where they meet and, get to discuss the important matters with other Blue Army members, to maybe even invite them to make a pilgrimage to come out from wherever they are to the Fatima Shrine here, and just to build up a community. I think the important thing for young people is they're looking for true fellowship, they're looking for community, they're looking to grow in their faith, and for young adults, they're also looking to meet a good spouse. So providing a context where we can concretely have events and have initiatives that allow these young people to get together, build true friendships, because we need to strengthen each other. Luke 22:32, you must strengthen your brothers. Like, we need to have that community. We need to be living it together. The communion of saints to communion. We're in this together.
Well, you are in this together. We are in this together. And I think that's the whole point. I think there's a song out there, looking for love in all the wrong places. Okay,
Sure.
But it's really true. I mean,
Right.
if you're a young Catholic man, if you're, if you're leaning towards, obviously for marriage, you want a nice young Catholic woman
Absolutely.
who understands what you do, understands the mission of marriage. And I say my generation totally dropped the ball on this. I'll be honest. I'm not saying this to tell you I'm telling you what we didn't do
Sure.
properly in my generation. I came of age in the 70s, and the 70s were wild. It was like the holdover of the 60s, which laid the foundation for all the wildness.
Right.
But sad. Okay, because I think a lot of people went off in different tangents in that period of time, and lost track. You can understand why you lose track of the faith.
Right.
I mean, if you've gone into more sinful endeavors, well, you're obviously not going to be following the Catholic faith or any
Right.
faith for that matter. And it to a great degree, it moved on to the next generation. Okay.
Sure.
And so, your generation is really suffering a lot, and it has to do with us. Of course, you can trace that back even before. I was born in the mid-50s when Pope Pius was the Pope and Eisenhower was the president. America was on top of the world after World War II. We were the envy of the world, okay? After World War II, we're the only ones standing, quite frankly,
Sure.
of any stature, financially, particularly industrially, militarily. And I think that was the foundation of our demise. There is a saying, you're a product. You become a victim of your own success.
Sure.
Okay. We as a society did that. I want my kid to have more than I had. But it's all material,
Yes.
basically. I want my son not to have to struggle like I did. I want my daughter not to have to struggle. But adversity builds character.
That's true.
Okay. And I think we sort of forgot that. My dad, who was born in 1917, and he would get a little frustrated with us more than once. He would say, "What you kids need is a good depression." That was his favorite
Sure.
slide, to understand what difficulty is all about.
Yes.
And I think that maybe there was too much success in the country and I think if you look at the history of the world, it happens all the time.
Sure.
Adversity builds character.
That's true.
Good times lead to weaker people, and so it does fall a lot on like yourself and your generation. But you seem to have a very optimistic view of this whole thing. Maybe it's coming from where you did school wise, and I think John Paul, you understand the faith, okay? And the Fatima message is really a message of hope. I mean, it truly is. Our Lady didn't come here to tell, well, you're all going to die in a fiery. No, she didn't do that. She said, this is what we need. But she warned us.
Right.
Nations could be annihilated, as she said. That's fine. And everybody's looking for the nuclear bomb, okay, to blow up, this is, it's a scary thought. But more scary is the fact that we're annihilating ourselves more through contraception and abortion, I believe, than I think that's more what was meant by that.
Sure.
And I think that's the problem. We have to have a culture of life.
Absolutely.
That St. John Paul II taught. The culture of death has to go. And I mean, for young people like you, and say, well, we get married. Well, maybe we can afford one kid or two kids. No, you can't. You can't afford any kids. Okay? God will provide what you need, and you have to be open to it.
Right.
And it's not just having children, but it's everything. I think, it's being not afraid. Be not afraid to go forward and do what has to be done and live a Catholic life.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's really been. And I really have. I've understood that, and again, I'm doing it from the perspective of, I think to some degree, a failed generation on our part. Obviously we all make mistakes. Some of the greatest saints were the biggest sinners too. So I think that there's, wherever there's life, there's hope, and we have to always go forward. But we have to learn by our mistakes.
Yes.
And I would hope. I mean, what do you see in our outreach? I mean, we're transitioning a lot. Okay,
Sure.
Now we're going more from Soul Magazine, our beautiful Soul Magazine, that was the foundation of our apostolate forever. Okay, it was 6 times a year. It became a quarterly.
Yes.
And as of 2023, we had to stop printing it because nobody subscribes anymore. It's not like the old days where people subscribe to print publications. So we're shifting more and more into the electronic things. I think we've done a decent job. What we're doing here today is a good example of it. What is your vision? How do you see that going? The blogs, our obviously our podcasts. What else out there do you think that really brings the message out in 2024, 25?
Sure. I think first of all, having an approach, our philosophy should be particularly in appealing to youth because the world is so broken and we're hit every day with all the evils, and it's very clear what the problems are, to really show that the Fatima message is a message of hope, to show that the faith is beautiful, to obviously explain the evil of sin, but at the same time, to really show that God is greater than sin, to show that the beauty of the faith is so astounding, is so powerful, is so overwhelming. The beauty of the motherly love of Our Lady is so striking that when you see that, it makes sin unthinkable. To approach it from the aspect of inspiring, to approach it from the perspective of the Catholic faith, our love of God, true, authentic love is the most beautiful thing that we could ever experience and have in our lives. So to approach it from that perspective, because we all want and long for that. And I think, and I'm very happy you mentioned Be Not Afraid. This reminds me of St. John Paul II. I just went to a retreat that was based on his teachings and, my namesake.
He's named after you. Oh, no.
Exactly. So I'm very inspired by him because he has that approach as well to appreciate the truth for what it is, to see evil for what it is, but also to lead with the power of beauty. And he always speaks this. You can see it in his encyclicals, in his writings, and he also is a great champion of Our Lady of Fatima. So I think that is another good angle to approach the message, because John Paul II very much appeals to Catholic youth in particular, and to show that he was a champion for Our Lady, and the Fatima message also will make the message more relevant, clear, and attractive. So I think providing experiences, having actual, community events that are sponsored by the Fatima Shrine to actually give a space where people can concretely come have a blend of faith, fun, good Catholic festivity, all of these things to provide that experience. Also to have videos, good podcasts, I would say cross-networking with Catholic apostolates that are already doing very well in the Catholic space, that are Catholic household names, to really try to work with them, because we're in this together, and to get our message out there with their help. And then we can also, we can also work with them and, foster this mission.
Sure.
And because I think that ultimately, it's important to have a good vision, and then to get the vision out there to market effectively. So social media is a big thing for my generation. Instagram is massive. So like having very good quotes, sound bites, little short videos, things that are catchy, that appeal to, that are entertaining, because it has to be interesting. People have to want to watch it, but it also has to be informative and challenging, to call us to something deeper. So I'm thinking a combination of podcasts, video media, having live events, and just, bringing Our Lady's message around with the tours and stuff, offering something unique that no one else is really doing, and to provide this hope, this witness, and inspiration.
Well, to your point, we just witnessed a presidential election, which, quite frankly, the big media had so little influence on it.
Yes.
To tell you the truth, whatever your politics, I'm not even pointing, but I'm saying that the blogs, the podcasts, the thing, that's where the information came out through this whole election cycle. And Jeff Bezos, the owner of the Washington Post, Amazon, and the other half of the world, I think, his point was very well taken when he said that the influence of the big papers is not there anymore.
Right.
Okay. I don't think that most of the major newspapers didn't even endorse a presidential candidate this time, which is absolutely unheard of. Okay, and I think that, and again, it's not to be partisan in any way, but I think that they see and saw their influence diminishing, But when you think about it, yeah, there's a lot of basement warriors that have podcasts and that. There's a lot of trash out there. Let's be honest.
Sure.
But there's a lot of good Christian Catholic content, and we want to keep adding to that.
Yes.
Because that's really what it's about. That's where you're going to win the day at the grassroots level. That's where you bring people in. You want young people particularly, but all people, and even older people. It's not, many. I mean, one great benefactor here who passed away a couple of years ago. I was telling her, I said, she was 91 years old, and she said, you can't keep publishing Soul Magazine. You can't keep putting it out there, even though it was nostalgic for her and others. Mm-hmm. Okay, but she said, you just have to understand. We understand, and now if they understand it at that age, we have to understand it at this point.
Sure,
that's true. The times have changed, and we have to change with it. Okay, mm-hmm. People went from news to television, from television, to the next thing, and we just have to stay ahead. Right. Not throwing out the past,
right?
Because the essence of the Fatima message is never. It's not going to change. It's the Catholic faith,
right?
And so I'm excited that I think we're in a new space here a little bit. I'm very happy that you come on board to be part of this with us. What is your feeling? I guess, and I've asked this earlier in this interview. When it comes to people out there, you mentioned about your brothers and sisters in the school and the friends you had and the clubs you had, but how do you make that next step now to reach out to those who may not have that kind of formation?
So yes, for the people that are either lukewarm Catholics or that, don't really have a faith that they've been living. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I
mean, people who certainly, you're leaning more towards people who at least have the basics of the faith, we would hope. But obviously there's others out there too. I know of someone just recently who had 2 grandchildren that are not being raised in the faith, but they went to visit grandma and she's like, I'm going to church right now, come with me. Okay. And they came with her. Okay. And her point was, she was saying that, man, they really found something. They were interested.
Yes.
Okay. So, it's not just those that have the faith and want more. It's those that don't have it.
Yes.
And like that woman that I mentioned in Prague, something inside of her knew this was real.
Yes.
People are seeking God, and that's part of their human nature. And so, that's, I would ask you, how would you, try to enkindle that in people? What do you say? How do you say? You want to stand up for something. You want people to want to be like you are. They see a smile on your face. Why is he happy?
Sure.
Okay. Little things like that. That's why our demeanor means a lot when we're out there. And just generally, again, you know your generation.
Sure. So I definitely agree. I think one of the most powerful witnesses to bring about conversion is friendship. It's friendship and experience and beauty. Yeah. And I think that it's so important that we have sort of a team, just like the way that focus missionaries work on college campuses by befriending students and then bringing them to events. So they have both a true friend and an experience. They enjoy the conversation that someone's taking an interest to be their friend, and they enjoy the pizza. It's they go together. And I think that's really what we should be doing, especially for people who are kind of on the fence, who are searching, that, want something more but don't know where to go. They need true friends. We need a sort of a team, an apostolate of young people that are also becoming involved, that become part of the core group, that go out sort of as missionaries to bring young people in, to bring them to events, because this is what we're called to do. Evangelization is not just for other Catholics. Evangelization is to bring all the lost sheep and back into the fold.
There's a lot of them.
Yes, there's a lot to work with.
Well, we are all lost sheep.
That is true too.
We just have to keep coming back and working, and that's what Our Lady wants. She's, you look at our beautiful shrine here and the design of that roof with Our Lady at the top and a roof coming down. It's being under her mantle.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what we have to do. We give our hearts to her. We follow the prescriptions of like St. Louis de Montfort. We give our hearts to her. She'll take care of the rest.
That is true.
Great. Well, John Paul, thanks so much. I look forward to, again, folks, seeing John Paul on a lot more of these videos. And I really, I'm looking forward to a great partnership in what you're doing. Okay.
Likewise.
God
Thank
bless
you so much.
Thank you.
God bless you too.
So please, we ask that you subscribe to this podcast. Thank you, and God bless you.